And now, from Pensacola, Florida, it's Within Reason with Bob Kerrigan and Bill Rankin.
Good evening and welcome to the award-winning Within Reason with Bob Kerrigan and Bill Rankin. Bob is away, and in Bob's absence, I know Bob announced that he was going to give me some liberal literature, and that was going to convert me, and I was going to show up leaning way over to the left toward the great I am, Mr. Obama. That has not happened. In fact, the exact opposite has happened. And with Bob gone, this is my opportunity to introduce the libertarian candidate,
That's
not
right.
the liberal candidate.
That's right.
For the first congressional district of Florida, and this is Calen, who is running for the seat now occupied by Congressman Miller, and he's running on the libertarian ticket.
That's right.
And Calen, you are qualified and ready to go. You're on the ballot.
On the ballot, qualified by petition method, and actually the incumbent wasn't able to do that. He had to pay the fee. So.
And anybody who wants to vote for you gets to, and we'll get to that in a little bit.
That's
but
exactly
first,
right.
let's talk about you.
Sure.
Where'd you grow up?
Grew up in Virginia. I was actually born in Pittsburgh, grew up in Virginia, and ended up down here, so I slowly migrated south.
And what brought you to Northwest Florida?
My wife, actually. I met my wife a couple years ago, and then I actually just got married 2 months ago.
Oh, congratulations!
So, big year for me.
How did you get interested in politics? I mean, you're aiming kind of high. You're not running for water management district or anything like that. You're you want to go to Washington.
Well, I've never been afraid to stand alone and shoot for the top. And back in the 2008 election, actually, I realized that the two candidates that we were given, McCain and Obama, I didn't agree with them on a lot of things, and didn't agree with a lot of their past, and so I started to realize, hey, maybe there's something else out there. Maybe there's something better as far as political parties and things of that nature. So I really started doing some introspection and realized, hey, I don't fit into this two-party system. I believe in real liberty. I believe in truly allowing people, to do what they can for themselves and individual rights. And so that was really kind of my waking up point. And then ever since then, I really did a lot of research about the Constitution and how this country was founded, and realized that I was libertarian.
How did you get the nomination for the Libertarian Party? Did anybody else show up?
I was the only one. I'm actually the first libertarian in history in the first district here. So we made history there, and plan to be the first libertarian in the U.S. Congress too.
Because you are unique. I mean, I doubt that a lot of people really understand what the Libertarian Party is about. It's not just can you tell us in a few words what the Libertarian Party stands for? Sure.
The libertarian philosophy really is the golden rule. Everyone's familiar with the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And it basically says, you do what you want. You just don't aggress upon my rights. I'll do what I want. I won't aggress upon your rights or anybody else's rights. And when you cross that line, there are severe consequences. But until you do, you're allowed to do what you want in your own home. You're allowed to do whatever you want with your own body. Just don't hurt anyone else. And so it's really pretty simple. And it all comes from the idea of natural rights. You own your body. And if I own my body and you own your body, then you can't tell me what to do with my body, and I can't tell you what to do with yours. And everything else flows from there, property rights and taxes and things of that nature. So. Okay.
Now, the libertarians in the past have been accused of taking some extreme positions, like, for example, no drug laws.
Sure.
Is that your position?
My position is that the Constitution is what gives the federal government all of its powers. We actually gave the federal government powers. It doesn't give us anything. And so the Constitution does not say anything about the federal government being involved in drug laws. So my position is, let's allow the states to handle that issue. And my philosophy is, whenever you get government involved in anything, trying to stop something that's not hurting someone else, of course the government's job is to protect rights. So it's to defend you against other people. But if you're trying to interfere with actions that aren't hurting other people, you inherently create black markets. And of course, that's what we've seen with the drug war, is that since the drug war started, drugs have become even more dangerous, more prevalent, and so our stance is allow the states to handle those things. We believe that the states are supposed to be 50 different laboratories of creation, and so that's our stance.
Okay. Now, we're all going to agree to some things the states can handle. I mean, the country, if you believe the country has to have a military, it's got to be a countrywide military. It didn't work well when all the states had their military.
That's right.
Washington came awfully close to losing when we had that system.
Yep. Yeah, and that's why they created the Constitution, and that's really, Article 1, Section 8 says what the Congress is allowed to do, and it's, I think, 18 very specific things. And, of course, having a military is one of those things.
Okay, how about this? Now, this isn't in the Constitution, because back in the Founding Fathers' days, we didn't have the kind of factories we have now. What if you have a factory on the edge of one state, and that state is happy to let that factory pollute all at once, because all the pollution's blowing onto the next state?
Right.
So is there a federal role there?
In fact, there is, and it's interstate commerce. So whenever a factory or somebody from one state is infringing upon the rights of another state, there is actually a role for government there, for the federal government. A lot of times that should be handled by the judicial systems, and hopefully it can be handled voluntarily. And so the one company that's getting the bad end of the deal comes to the other company and says, hey, can you fix this, or how can we fix this without getting the government involved? But if that doesn't work, sure, there's always the company that's infringing on the rights of the other company to have clean air or clean water or whatever has to fix that. Sure.
Okay. But you do see some role for the national government in cross-state pollution.
Yes.
Okay. And how about this? I mean, some of us, I'm sure you're one of those people, can do perfectly fine without help from the government. You're probably more of a net giver to the government than a getter. So if the government basically went away in terms of taking money and providing social services, you'd be good.
Right, probably.
But how about the people who, for whatever reason, and a lot of people are in bad shape because they abuse drugs, because they make bad choices. But whether they've made bad choices or they're just infirm or handicapped or whatever, there are people who cannot feed and clothe themselves and cannot shelter themselves. They just can't do it. And we'd like their families to step up, but they don't always. Is there a role for the national government there?
I would say no. That would come as a surprise to a lot of people, but for the first example, people who have made bad choices, there are always consequences to every choice you make. And it's unfortunate. Sometimes you might make a choice 10 years ago and it's affecting you today, and that is very unfortunate. However, if there are people that are struggling in life, and there are obviously people like yourself and myself and probably a majority of people who feel for those people and want to help them, the libertarian perspective and my stance on that is that private individuals and charities and churches and other entities do a much better job of being able to help the poor and the sick and people that need the help, rather than the bureaucrats in D.C. I mean, we all know that every time money goes to D.C., maybe 5% of it comes back and the rest disappears
They're
somewhere.
Inefficient.
They're completely
Things are
inefficient.
politicized.
That's right.
What they're doing to get reelected. But
that's right. That's right. And states' rights is another big part of this, because states certainly do have the option to do things like this. But as for the federal government, we believe keep the federal government out of it. If the state of Florida wants to help the poor and the sick, that's great for them. But that's something that the bureaucrats in D.C. shouldn't be involved in.
Fascinating. How about immigration? So on drugs, you're not opposed to some drug control, but it should be done by the states.
Right. As long as the federal government's hands are on it.
You probably agree with me. There are a lot of people in prison for drugs. Marijuana is a good example. We've got legal alcohol and illegal marijuana, and by all accounts, they're both bad for you. I don't like either one of them. Certainly, well, take that back. I like beer, but certainly not to excess. And we've got all these people in prison for selling it just carrying it around and using it.
That's
And,
right.
and
some-
I
and
agree
some
with you.
people-
It's very expensive, and it's not doing us any good to house
right.
these people.
That's right. The use of drugs in the country has skyrocketed since the drug war began. And really, some people do get medical use out of certain drugs that the government outlaws. And really, the point is, whatever you want to do in your own home, just don't infringe on other people. Now, if you go try to sell something to a child or something like, or you're using a gun, to deal drugs or something like that, then sure, the government has every right, because its job is to protect other people's rights. But when you're doing stuff and you're not infringing on other people, the stance is.
You mean you think you can, if you get a recipe for cooking up meth and do it yourself in your home?
I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm just saying.
Well, we can agree it's not a good idea.
Just
but
saying,
the question is,
keep the federal government out of it. Let the states decide
okay.
that. And I'm sure.
But you're okay with the states outlawing meth? It's certainly outlawing cooking meth is a very dangerous thing.
It is dangerous.
Ought to be against the law.
Absolutely. As long as the federal government is out of the business of that, let the localities.
Okay. So you're
deal with
saying our society would. How about immigration? I mean,
Sure.
one knock I've heard of libertarian is they just want to open the borders and let anybody run in.
That some people have said that. That's not my position. My position is the government does have a role to protect our borders. In fact, part of the military, one of the main military duties is to protect our borders, and
Right.
unfortunately, they're not doing that. They're in other lands defending other borders right now. So that's another thing that we'd like to see our home defenses tightened up. Illegal immigrants, the first thing they did when they came into this country was break the law when they crossed the border.
Right.
So all we're saying is they can follow the same rules as everyone else. Get in line, take a card, and we'd be glad to have them if they're going to be good workers and they're going to be productive member of society. But the federal government's role is to make sure that that's happening properly.
Okay. Well, I want to talk about the race now.
Sure.
And you and raising money and what it takes to get elected.
Right.
And of course, one thing you're doing it right here, is you're spreading the libertarian message. If
That's
you
right.
get 200,000 votes or 4 votes, you are
Sure.
going around spreading the libertarian message,
That's right.
which I personally think is a very good thing. But, and we've talked about this before, since I found your website, I
Right.
contacted you. We've been discussing this, just waiting for Bob to go out of town so we could put you in that chair and have you talk.
Right. Threats for Congress, by the way.
Threats for Congress.
.com.
Yeah, that's the website. Why not promote it
Hey,
when
you
you have a
mentioned it,
chance?
so.
Yeah, no, I'm all for it. I mean, I think that
I'm a web developer by trade, so hopefully it's a good-looking website.
it is.
Thank you.
Yeah, go to threatsforcongress.com.
There we go.
And there's some interesting things on there and interesting ideas. But
Sure.
and some of the people I've talked to are politically active, politically connected. I told you, I talked to somebody who's in media, somebody who's got a lot of clout in media. I don't want
Right.
to mention the name.
Right.
This person never heard of you.
Sure.
And the election's 100 days away.
Right.
And nobody ever heard of you. How do
Right.
you win?
Well, for one thing, I have a feeling that some people wish they hadn't heard of me. I think a lot of people are aware of our campaign because we've made history and we've actually had a lot of media coverage in different ways and things like that. But a lot of
I
people.
don't know. I have not seen anything about you on local media
Well, I'll tell you
or in
this.
the news. Pensacola News Journal
I'll tell you
reaches
this,
a lot of your potential constituents.
This is true. Well, like I said, a lot of people, I think, have, especially in the media, have heard of the campaign, but wish they hadn't because they have a lot invested in the system as it is. And I've actually been featured in a story that was on the front page of the New York Times a couple months ago. I was also featured in Bloomberg Business Week magazine.
Excellent.
So we've had a lot of coverage. It's just that some people have chosen not to cover us in the local area, and some people have, and we certainly appreciate those that have, and hopefully those that haven't will understand that our message is very popular because we're just about liberty. That's all it is. So and that's what people like.
Yeah.
It's popular.
Yeah, but you got to get the message out.
Sure.
And
that's what we're doing right here.
One thing that Congressman Miller brings to the table, he's the head of the Veterans Affairs Committee
Right.
in the House of Representatives.
Right.
And what he would say if he were here, I doubt he would get anywhere near this place or our show because we have not been a supporter of Congressman Miller, it's
Right.
safe to say.
Right.
But he can bring home the bacon.
Sure. Yeah.
And one thing we know is the national government is. This isn't voluntary. You know, you got to pay your taxes, and I'm paying taxes and sending my money up there.
That's
I'd
right.
hate to see none come back to our area.
Well, that's the thing with the federal government is they take all the money out of your left pocket and they say, hey, we'll send you
Right.
some back and put
If
it
you
in
do
your right
what we
pocket.
want.
If you do what we want, because there are strings
Right.
attached. But the thing is, they might take $10,000 out of your left pocket and you'll get $1,000 back in your right pocket, and they say, look at all these great things we did for you.
Right.
Well, they didn't really do anything good for you. They just took money and gave some back to you. What we say is keep the money in your pocket. You know how to spend it better than the federal government. And of course, yes, there are some things that the federal government has to do. They're in the Constitution. But for example, you mentioned Jeff Miller is the chair of the Veterans Affairs Committee. Mm-hmm. He portrays himself as a defender of veterans, but how many veterans fought for massive debt, less freedoms, and endless war? I guarantee you, the vast majority would say no. Of course we didn't fight for those things. There was an issue with the Camp Lejeune drinking water. I don't know if you've heard about this, but
I haven't.
it affected thousands of Marines and their families back a few decades ago. And many of them were poisoned, even injured and killed. And the federal government didn't compensate them for those injuries. And of course, what is the federal government is supposed to do? It's to compensate people for problems like that. Mm-hmm. So, these issues were, of course, brought to the chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee, and nothing was ever done about it. So I think that's, also a big problem. That's one of the issues that I would like to bring to the table is if you really want to defend veterans, then actually defend veterans. Don't just say you do.
But it is very important. We're about halfway through the segment. I want to tell our viewers to stay tuned. Mr. Fretz is going to be with us for the first half hour, and then we've got City Councilman Sam Hall, who will be on to talk about some real Pensacola issues, the Pensacola budget, the challenges facing Pensacola, how's the mayor doing, and so forth. Well, let's get back to this a little bit. I mean, if you went up there,
sure.
You would be a freshman congressman.
That's right.
Basically, you wouldn't be in either of the big caucuses. I mean, how do you ever get to be the head of a committee, which is where you get to pass out the pork?
Right. Well, they're not going to like me. Congressmen are.
I would suggest they'll just ignore you.
They very well may, but
I mean, you have one vote among 500.
I don't think they'll have the option to ignore me, because I think when my message gets in front of the American people, like I said, freedom is popular. That's a slogan that I've heard many times throughout the past few years, and it's very true. Once people really realize that what they're getting is a bum rap from the congressman right now, and once they hear the true philosophy of liberty and how that can actually benefit people, and how many people claim to defend the Constitution, but yet almost everything they do is not authorized by the Constitution. So that's the message that we want to bring to the American people, and a place in the U.S. Congress where I can actually show people that yes, we can defend the Constitution and it can be beneficial for the American people. That's my goal.
Okay, but in terms of a lot of the decisions about the military are politicized.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, that's why we have military bases. If you are the head of a very powerful committee,
right,
then you can get a lot of things done in and for your district. I mean, if he were the head of appropriations or something, maybe we'd be building submarines in Bayou Tahar or something.
Right.
You're not going to be able to do that. Isn't that something voters might want?
Well, if we're talking about Jeff Miller, he wasn't able to do that his first term either. Of course, it does take some time to.
Yeah, but Calen, you don't want to do it. You don't want to pass out pork.
Well, I would certainly love to be a committee chairman of any committee, but I would make sure we followed the Constitution, however that committee impacted it. And so, like I said, Jeff Miller didn't get in there day one and be able to.
You had a terrific article on your website about congressmen micromanaging military affairs. Tell us about that. You can do that better than I can. What started this off?
What happened was it was the issue with BRAC, the base realignment and closure. And what it comes down to is Congressman Miller has been trying to micromanage the Air Force. and trying to say we have to have a headquarters unit here or there or whatever.
He's kind of built into some kind of an appropriations bill the need to have some of the money spent in his district, which is our area.
Well, what he did was he's trying to keep certain things here and not let the Air Force do what it knows is the best thing to do.
Which is probably, it's really harmful to the mission to have the military being directed by
a congressman
the
who is not a military
who wants
man.
Whatever he can get.
That's right.
Down here. I mean, if they're going to do research on trained SEALs, bring it down here as long as we're spending money in our district, whether it advances the mission or not. And what we notice is they're squabbling. They need a new tanker.
Right.
And rather than everybody saying, well, the military wants this tanker and they've made this decision and let's get behind it, they file suits and hold it up. And the same thing that happened, I don't know why we're in Afghanistan, but there's an airport in Afghanistan that's empty.
Right.
Because they're squabbling over who's going to build the planes.
Right.
And they were going to build them in Brazil, so everybody bowed up and said, well, that may be the cheapest and best for the military, but it's not the best for my district, so we're going to have lawsuits and we're going to have these decisions made in this way.
Right.
But if all these other Congress people are getting the port in their district, if you're elected, are we going to see a decline in military spending here?
My perspective on military spending, here's a great example. Recently, the military asked for 9 ships. They wanted 9 ships to be built. Well, the Congress said, hey, that's not enough. We'll give you 10.
Right. They're going to give them stuff they don't want.
At a cost of an extra $1 billion. And so that $1 billion could have stayed in people's pockets, could have been spent in the local economy, and that's what helps people at the local level. It's not when you send all your money to D.C. and they tell the military how to do their job best. And that's the issue with Jeff Miller. He's telling the Air Force how to do their job. And of course, the Air Force is not going to want to continue sending resources to the Eglin area when they know that their local congressman is going to be micromanaging everything they do. And so what we're saying is, Northwest Florida is a very unique area. We have the perfect environment for the military, bases that we have here.
There aren't a lot of places like Eglin, which is vast.
Exactly. There are almost nowhere, especially in the U.S., like Eglin. And the Air Force inherently wants to do business here in Northwest Florida, but they're not going to want to do it when they know that their congressman is going to micromanage and pull strings over every little thing they do. And we need to let the military do what it knows how to do best, and that's to run the military. Okay.
Do we need, in your view, a military as big as our military is?
I would like to see our military go back to 2005 levels. In fact, if we took all of our spending back to 2005 levels, we could balance our budget. And I don't think many people would say that the government was too small back in 2005. If anything, it was too big then. But at least we could balance our budget, and that's cuts, in every area, whatever we have to do, because our #1 national security issue is the fact that our economy is going to be on the decline until we solve this debt problem.
Good point. What's your take on Afghanistan? What should we be in Afghanistan?
Well, our mission there was to get Osama bin Laden, to defeat the terrorist headquarters that were there. Yeah. Exactly, and we've done that. I believe our mission there has been won. I believe it's time to bring our boys home and defend our own borders here in the U.S. We have U.S. citizens down on the Mexican border who are being killed and beheaded by these Mexican cartels. And, where is our military there? Well, they're all sent off to a different country. Yeah. So let's defend our own borders. Let's keep the illegal immigrants, it is an economic issue for this country, too. Yeah. They have free access to health care and education and all these things. And so really, let's concentrate on fixing the U.S.
Well, I hope this is making as much sense to our viewers as it is to me, because we've both long preached that we have not heard a good justification for being in Afghanistan.
Yes, sir. Yep.
None.
Well, we were there. We finished our mission.
Right.
Let's come home.
After the mission was complete.
Yep,
I did agree with that. The Taliban were just recalcitrant, and they were going to allow Al Qaeda to have a base there, which was a threat to us.
Sure. Yeah.
So you're not for shrinking the military any more than the 2005 levels?
I'd like to take it back to a level that the spending is under control, And I think, you know, if we can bring our troops home, that will inherently bring our costs down. If we can stop spending all our money over there. Of course, the other thing is,
and a lot of it stays there. I mean,
that's exactly
the
right.
Karzai brothers are certainly a lot richer than anybody I've ever met.
Right. And we have hundreds of thousands of troops overseas, and all the money that we pay them is getting spent overseas. It's not getting reinvested in our local economy.
Right.
So when we bring our troops home here, they reinvest in our local economy. That helps us as well. And of course, you know, you have the foreign aid issue. We're sending billions and billions of dollars to different countries around the world.
Now, that's,
where we should
honestly,
be spending
though, that's
it here.
a pretty small percentage of the budget, isn't it?
In the total budget, yes, it's somewhat small, but still, it's billions and billions of dollars that we should be spending in the U.S. There's no room in the Constitution to be sending U.S. taxpayer money to other countries.
A billion here, a billion there. It adds up like famous politician once said. All right, here's the third rail of politics. Now, there are a lot of people who say, if you touch my Social Security or my Medicare, I'm your political enemy.
Right.
What about it? I mean, you're going to touch my Social Security and my Medicare?
Well, here's the deal, especially with Social Security. There was never any money in there.
There's no money. That's right.
As soon as they started putting money in Social Security, they started taking it back out and spending it on other things, and they put IOUs in there. And so the fact is, Social Security is a program that the bureaucrats in D.C. never should have got their hands on. Of course, they want to do anything they can to increase the power that they can wheel and deal in D.C. But as far as programs like that, again, there's no room in the Constitution. However, there is room at the state level. So we're saying, let's let the local and state level decide these issues. They understand their local problems.
What about that? Tens of thousands of dollars. I'm old. I paid tens of thousands of dollars into Social Security. You mean?
That's right.
And I get what you're saying. There isn't a pile of money sitting there for me to get back. That's gone.
Right.
The lockbox is full of IOUs.
Right.
But you're saying just you know, for people like me, just tough.
No.
Go get it from Tallahassee.
No, that's not what I'm saying. The government, when they took your money for all those years, they made a contract with you and said, look, we're going to give you this money back. It owes you that money, of course.
Well, according to the courts, that it's not that kind of an enforceable contract.
Well,
I mean, if the national government decides to cut my Social Security to nothing or to means test it,
if
they means test it, I'm screwed. Which you know, I don't expect anybody to feel sorry for me, but things like that influence votes.
Sure, it's a very tough situation, but from the time that Social Security was incepted to now, it was run terribly. It was not well taken care of. It was abused, quite frankly. And the best solution would be to get that back in the local and state government hands. And I would be fine with block granting those programs to the states. I would be fine. I would love to see it personalized and get it out of the hands of the government completely.
Yeah, well, but aren't there people who are not going to make good investments? I mean, there was some effort during the Bush administration to privatize some aspects of it. When everybody's investments took a dive, that idea went away. Is that what you're talking about? Allowing people some tax advantage retirement thing where they do it for themselves, and the people who aren't prudent are screwed?
Well, it's all about individual responsibility. You certainly have the right to manage your own money how you want to. If you take bad risk, just like any business, then you have to live with that.
A certain percentage of people are going to take bad risks, and they're going to be starving. They're going to be too old and infirm to work. They don't have any money. They're not going to get any place to live or anything to eat without some money. What are you going to do for them, if anything?
Well, first of all, it comes down to educating the people about making good choices.
But educate them all you want. A lot of people are going to be totally broke and old.
Well, sure. People are always going to make bad choices, but the question is, do we believe in individual responsibility, or do we believe in a nanny state that tells you everything to do, tells you how to live your life, make sure that you have enough to just get by? And of course, I take the former stance. I believe that people have that responsibility. And look, if you take a bad risk and it doesn't pay off for you, that's what family and private charities and churches are there for, is to be that safety net instead of the government. The government was not intended to be a safety net.
Good. Well, we won't see people starving in the streets. You're pretty sure about that?
I'm pretty sure that if we got more money back into the hands of private individuals, that the quality of life for all Americans would go up.
Okay. This is Calen Fretz running for Congress. Give us the website again.
The website is fretzforcongress.com, and I'd like to give you a bumper sticker, Fretz for Congress, right there. And please check out the website, like us on Facebook, check us out on Twitter.
It's a good website. Will you come back?
I'd love to come back, absolutely.
Very good. Well, thank you for being here. We're going to take a break and come back with City Councilman Sam Hall. I appreciate you coming over and enjoyed our visit.
Thanks a lot,
Thanks,
Bill.
Calen. Bye-bye.